about this meeting?
I would have been utterly heartbroken and had to put like a real long entry into my feelings journal if you had.
Well, I was working on one of the questionnaires, and I just started chapter 3 and reading about this epic battle going on between all these kingdoms.
I guess that's a good excuse. You got wrapped up in the reading. That's good. That's good. So about that, yeah. So the questionnaires, all the Aztec questionnaires got posted on Canvas, and so did the study guide for the Aztec exam, which is going to come up on us in a hurry. So just be ready for that and be aware. How's everybody doing? Doing well?
John?
Chilling? Like villains?
Magellan, like Magellan. No, not like that guy. He got eaten.
Did you post the project yet?
No, I was going to do it this morning and I got caught up. Yeah, the project will go up this week. I promise. It'll go up today, in fact.
That's due in like the end of May, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that going to be the Stilo one?
Yeah, the Kirigua Stilo project.
Okay.
Let me ask you guys a question. Do you think next spring I should offer an honors class that's like Mysteries of the Maya? It'd be a whole semester on the Maya.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 I don't see why not.
How many of you guys would be around to take it?
Not me, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, yikes.
If you do summer, I'll take it.
Last semester.
Yeah, it's a little hard because I feel like honors courses attract a certain type of student who may not necessarily be like super keyed up on the Maya or whatever, but they just like to take honors classes. So that's the debate in my head.
I never do honors, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Would you be willing to do it as a summer course?
I can't. I don't think they do honors courses over the summer. In any case, like the next deadline for submission to do an honors course is for next spring already. They're already out to next spring.
Oh, gotcha.
But if you wanted to do like an independent study or something, we could talk.
Okay.
All right, so you can see, I assume if you've watched the lecture videos at the Aztec stuff, I don't go near, in as much depth and not even really as much breadth. I'm trying to keep it, a little more manageable, both for you guys and for me. Taylor asked if there's a date for the next exam. So yes, I would, you guys all really need to make sure on Canvas that you check out the new schedule I put up. It's the first thing you see when you look at our Canvas page. So your next exam is scheduled for the weekend of May 1st.
Cool. I had a question.
Yes, go ahead. Hello, people who've dropped in recently.
So, like in the book, it seems they have different spellings than like the spellings we have in our notes from the lectures.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to make sure. So is Texcoco with the Acolhua people? Is that this place Texcoco that Nezahualcoyotl
Yes.
was a part of? Okay.
Yeah. So, and it's really just there are in figuring out how to spell things out in Nahuatl, they don't always come to the same conclusion. So what my notes were pulling from may not necessarily agree with the spelling on the book. In terms of anything that you're writing, remember, I don't even really check spelling, right? So as long as you get something close,
Okay, cool.
I'll be happy. It's a lot of slides this week. You stick all those slides together, it's almost 100 slides.
Sorry, was that how to spell Nahuatl that you were just going over? I just dropped in.
No, how to spell anything, whether it's a ruler's name or a place name or
Okay.
a deity name, which you'll get all the deities next week.
And then I had a question about segmentary state.
Yes.
Was that what you had just gone over in the first video in the first couple minutes about how it
Yes.
was kind of, well, segmentary, I guess?
Yeah, so you can either use the word hegemonic or
Okay.
segmentary. I like for like up until this semester, I always use the word segmentary, but segmentary is really, it almost focuses more on the like kinship relationships. It's not an Aztec centric concept, and the Aztecs seem so much more a state that I like a hegemonic state versus like a segmentary one. But they're very, very close concepts to one another.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So in the book, it talks about how Montezuma was elected. Is that how they chose their rulers? They elected them, but not from like the people, but from like a small council.
Well, yeah, but remember that a lot of those positions do have hereditary points too. You know what I mean? So I think just like in our elections, right? The group you can pick from is small.
Limited.
Yeah.
Gotcha. But who picks them?
I'd have to check on that. Soto, do you know off the top of your head, like who gets to vote? It's just the council.
Yeah, so to become Waitlatuani, like the main emperor, there is a council, and you have to have served as like some of the higher ranks of military leader, and that makes you more likely to be chosen. Yeah, but there is like those elite are usually family, like a cousin or an uncle or a son, and you see it from the first Moctezuma, then somebody else takes it, and then Moctezuma the second, which is his son, ends up taking the throne right after that.
Asha Yakadal, right, is in between them, I think.
Yeah, actually, he was a crazy one that did some of the.
So it is a council that chooses.
Yeah, because remember that's kind of the very beginning of the hegemony, right? Is so there is like an overall emperor, but there is this, the Triple Alliance and all this. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
It's really kind of interesting to think about how the Aztecs were able to develop a hegemonic empire that seemingly is like just an umbrella over something that really mimicked the ancient Maya scenario. But the Maya could never even get a hegemonic empire going. Not that empires are a good thing. I'm not, making any kind of value judgment.
And it was always based on the reason why they wanted like military leaders is because they were so war oriented. They wanted somebody that would make good decisions. But
what did you think about that? The kind of flower war stuff about like, trying to conquer through noise, through bark instead of bite, where possible.
Well, so they had a way of initiating their war. So they would always they would send envoys, and they would say, we bring you like a shield and some weapons and some gifts, and you can either bend the knee and pay tribute, or it's just a clear sign that we're going to come in and just destroy you just enough for us to be able to
Right. If
to
this
keep
is
you
if this is
subjugated.
what we can give
But
away,
the
imagine what
flower,
we're keeping.
yeah, but the flower wars, from my understanding and my reading, were a little different. The flower wars, they held, oh, I just blanked on their name, Tlaxcala.
Hmm.
They left them. If you see the map, they're encircled by Aztec territory all
Right.
around. And they didn't really give them a choice. They said, "Hey, we're gonna have an annual flower war, where we'll come in, kind of like the Maya did. We'll meet somewhere in the center, we'll fight, and we'll take captives. But you don't have a choice. And this is just a way for us to capture." And they kept them as a little island,
Hmm.
and they use them to farm sacrifices to the west. Uh, Again, I blanked on the other tribe. They were never able to
Tarascans.
defeat them, actually, because of the terrain. Yeah, the Tarascos, the Tarascans, and they were never able to because of geographic advantages, the lakes, the mountains. They had better knowledge of all that, and every time they tried to go in and conquer, they would get whooped on that
I al-
front.
I
But the
also
Tarascans also had metal weapons.
that's what I was going to say, that the Tarascans had bronze making, and I wonder, if they were, hesitant to, lose that, that trade resource, by if you fight and you lose, maybe you lose your access to bronze items and such. So it's kind of interesting.
I have another question.
Yeah, but as far as the flower wars go, that's basically it. They kept them as, and then they dressed it up as a ceremony type thing.
Gotcha. Go ahead, Eddie.
So in when learning about the Maya and in central, the Yucatan and the southern lowlands and the southern highlands, gold wasn't a thing, but now it seems like gold was popping up everywhere with the Aztecs. So where did that come from? Was that always a feature in central Mexico, or is this kind of a
So
unique
it's
thing
new.
to-
I mean, you don't find any gold in like Teotihuacan or anything like that.
Right.
So I think the new things that you're starting to get, you're getting, the trade networks are starting to expand in kind of both directions. So there's turquoise coming from the southwest and gold coming up from like Costa Rica area.
Okay. So because of the extended trade networks, gold is starting to flow in.
Mm-hmm.
But why do we know why that became like a resource they wanted? Was it just because it was shiny? Did they have like a religious thing to
Yeah, I
it?
mean,
Isn't it like long lasting? Isn't it like designed to last for a long time?
yeah, I mean, and it doesn't rust, and you know, it's impossible to say like when a culture first encounters a material, like what are they going to make of it? You know what I mean? Is it something sacred? Is it something profane? Is it something desirable? Is it, how do they fit it into their worldview? It just seems like gold, with as rare as it is and the properties that it holds, cross culturally you see it elevated time and time again.
Mhm. Okay.
We'll go over when we talk about the Inca and their interaction with the Spanish. It's actually recorded that the Inca or the Spaniards were holding the Inca emperor captive. And the Inca bought him back, and we know what they bought him back for. And I'll give you
Rooms of silver.
like what that's worth in today's figures. Yeah, it's an
Yeah.
obscene amount of money.
Like a room's worth gold and silver and things?
I think it was 1 room of gold and 2 rooms of silver, and the rooms are still preserved. And so if you just, do the math on like length times width times height times, silver, it's, yeah. hundreds
And
of
so did they also view gold and silver as like a valuable commodity, kind of like the Spanish?
yeah.
But
But you have to be careful um, that remember we're talking about different types of economies.
Right, yeah.
So their value in each and the role that they're playing in each is going to be different.
I guess that's what I was trying to get with my question. Like, how do they view it? Because like we know Europeans view it as a currency,
Mm-hmm.
but how do the Aztecs and
Well, I
I'm
mean,
sure
it's going to be one of those things that has value in their tribute-based economic system, right? So one of the things that you can feed up is gold objects. They're also, think back to our elite, our discussion of elite wares for the ancient Maya, right? So they're going to be things that just the upper echelons of the Aztecs have and maybe even control access to. And they're going to become symbols of their power and their wealth.
Yeah, that's okay. That's what I'm trying to get at.
wasn't it more like religious thing, like it representing some like god or something, gold and silver?
Well, so remember that kind of gets back at the point where I was talking about of like slotting these things into your worldview. These things are going to have to make sense religiously as well as in every other way. And so whether they become an aspect of a god or the material manifestation of a god or the thing the god wants to be given or wants to eat or whatever, that all gets done. And I think your book, if memory serves, you haven't gotten to it yet, but I think your book has a nice chart of the Aztec deities and what their main attributes are. So that should be helpful.
So I had a question. In the study guide, you mentioned the Mexica Chichimeca.
Oh, I meant to cross that out. Don't worry about it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we will have a formal review for the exam. So we're not going so fast that we won't have a review Zoom. We will. So we'll have a regular Zoom this week, regular Zoom next week, and then the week after that, there will be the Zoom will be a review session. Pedro, the question that your comment begs is which anime that he looked like he's from? Leo was carrying a sword, where everyone's showing their weapons today. I'll play. Hold on.
Since attention's on me right now, I'll wait for him to come back.
There we go.
Oh,
Jeez.
What is that, Scottish?
It is it's some sort of
Braveheart.
two-handed medieval thing. When I was a little kid, my family went to the Renaissance fair and I bought a sword for like $20 or whatever. And then I had a fire in college and a bunch of my shit got destroyed. So I was always like, well, I'm going to get a new sword. And I eventually got a new sword.
Oof.
always on the top of the list.
Very cool.
It's not sharpened. So it's better as a stabby thing than a slicey thing. But
I mean, it's good. It's a good protection against getting invaded.
well, yeah, if I ever get robbed, I'm hoping I can just scare the shit out of the person by charging them with a giant fucking sword.
Before you left to show us our sword, I kind of had a question about the chinampas,
Yes.
which is like the whole agriculture thing. Just like, honestly, to me, it seems I haven't got my book yet because of just Amazon.
Okay.
But so I don't know if it goes into detail, but how did they just like come up with that? Because honestly, at that for the time right there, that just seems so fucking advanced. Found. Like, all right, so
Well, okay. So
wow.
my answer to that kind of question is even long before the Aztecs, like the initial domestication of crops. I don't know that we've talked about it in this class a ton or at all, but so there's the quote unquote three sisters method of agriculture where you dig a hole and you throw in a corn seed and a bean seed and a squash seed, and you put them in the same hole and they grow together. So the corn plant, the beans will use as a trellis, and the squash plant leaves protect the plants from sun and from pests. And then even below ground, the kinds of chemical reactions that each of the plants are doing to the ground, they end up helping each other. So that in it, I mean, and that's really old. They're not understanding that process on a chemical level, on a genetic level. It's just honing practice year after year after year through, hundreds of generations. And I think the same thing is true with a Chinampa system. Your population is growing and growing, and farmable, agrable land is limited, and so you expand in different ways. You start terracing hillsides, and that helps you get more farmable land, and then converting these swamps or these low water areas into wet farming. You need to, but it's also you quickly learn it's this self-replicating thing. You don't need rain. You've got water. You've got really fertile soil, and it becomes like its own little ecosystem where you get the fish too. So it's kind of cool system.
Oh yeah, I thought that was like super interesting and like pretty woke, not gonna lie.
So I think I did mention in that video that you will need to like draw and label and explain how a Chinampa works. So that's something you should work on.
Yeah, and I think you said it's only like that giant, like the lakes that are kind of corresponding with Texcoco, like not Texcoco itself, but also like Chalco and Xomilco, I think it's called.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only found like in that part. It's not like in other parts of the empire. It's only like in that region-ish.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, you need this kind of lake presence to be able to do this stuff. I'm not here asserting that there's no other lake in central Mexico that had Chinampas associated with it. But the sort of core of the empire was dependent on the Chinampas around Tenochtitlan, and then the ones in the more southern lakes.
Okay, thank you.
For the for Nessa's dike, I'm just
Uh-huh.
gonna call it Nessa. Maybe we can say the whole name, but for that, well, what's the focus? Because they had quite a, their architecture. I don't know if we're gonna get into their architecture and like all those feats later on, but that was just to know that they had created that dike to separate the brackish water from the fresh water that they were bringing in.
Exactly. Yes, and that they were able to convert, a portion of a brackish lake into a freshwater lake in order to be able to farm it.
Is that dike still intact today?
Well, remember that the entirety of that lake basin is under Mexico City. And so
Never mind.
I mean, all that's left is just a lake in one of the large parks in the city. Literally.
So it would be interesting. I don't know if excavations have ever been done, like where the dike should be, and if they've, found it. But
So how do we know that this happened?
I mean, historically, right? Remember that this is not an empire that is out of the realm of history, right? So we have Spanish.
So it's documented in writing from like the Spanish.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, when the Spanish went to attack the city, they failed the first time, but similar to the story that you said about the Maya, where
At
they built
Tayasal.
ships, and yeah, at Tayasal, they actually built those ships, and they break the what's the term for the water? Um, the Romans had it to bring in water.
Aqueduct?
Yeah, so they
Mhm.
break the aqueduct to take out their fresh water supply, and they also break the dike so that their fresh water supply is reduced. They kind of lay siege on there, so they're writing accounts about all this stuff.
And in one of the, I can't remember if it's the Aztec case or the Maya case, that the ships, in one of those cases, the ships weren't like constructed fresh. They were like sailed in, broken down on the coast, and carried overland and rebuilt.
Yeah, Cortez sailed them in from because Cuba was like the base of operations of the Spanish Empire in the Americas at the time, and so Cortez sails them in from Cuba into Veracruz, and then in Veracruz they break it down. Then they hike, basically, they do the long trek to Tenochtitlan, and they break it all down. They broke down the ships, and then once they're there, they start building them back up.
Can you imagine having to be one of those assholes carrying like some heavy ship part? God.
Just up a mountain and being like, "This is fucking."
Yeah. This is not how you sail. You don't carry the boat.
But you would
Like
also have to
complaining.
get some indigenous people, some Paiscalan, doing that work for them.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll learn that the Spanish definitely exploit conflicts that the Aztecs were having, so they buddy up with the Tarascans and the Tlaxcalans, and that has global effects, believe it or not.
They actually take a lot of the Tlaxcalans and natives when they go to do the conquest in the Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Zuni Pueblo too. That's the one I mentioned.
Yeah. That's like one of the underreported interesting cases of history.
Where you have Mexican indigenous people fighting, like there was samurai in the Philippines, like Ronin. It's the craziest thing ever.
You could do a show on it, but people would call it unrealistic.
Yeah.
I didn't believe it.
I call you cultural appropriation.
I want to ask you about the terracing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know the only thing that I've read is the gardens, right, where they have that pool, the bathhouse that's up on the hill, and then there's that garden around that. But they were using terracing for farming food also.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know, like I guess I confess that I've heard it discussed more in Aztec area studies more than stuff in Tenochtitlan or around Tenochtitlan.
So different areas that weren't necessarily in the lake, they were using that method.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's
Gotcha.
just a really smart way if you have good land, but if it's too sloped, as you water it, you're going to lose your soil down slope. You're going to get erosion. But if you terrace it, you don't have that problem.
Okay.
I'm surprised. You know how in California, even San Diego, like a lot of people's backyards is like just a big kind of ramp of dirt. Like no one ever terraces that. You should terrace it.
Yeah.
I mean, we're kind of told to keep the design of mesa style.
Mm-hmm.
Build everything on the bottom of the hill or at the top of the hill to make it look very green and natural.
Mm.
So even though we would love to terrace it, it looks wrong and it's destroying the wildlife, apparently.
Nature is a myth.
Nature is a myth.
Well, I mean, there is no place on Earth untouched by human interaction at this point. So I argue there is no nature.
I would say, a bunch of things underneath the ice caps of Antarctica.
Are they not affected by the fact that the ice caps have shrunk?
I bet they were locked in there
I
for a
don't think-
reason.
I don't think that. I don't
What
think
about
that
the
lands
Marianas
them, but-
Trench?
What's that?
The Marianas Trench?
They find trash down there.
Yeah. Have you
Guys.
seen those studies of how much particulate plastic is in the ocean?
But
outside
then
doesn't
you're-
exist.
You're framing nature from a reference of human perspective when nature just is.
Mm.
In this day and age, inside is the new outside.
For a while until around August when everything just is supposed to go back to normal, but wait for the second epidemic.
Yeah. That's when Meteor hits because Sephiroth was given the black materia.
Okay. All right. Spoiler alert, man. I'm like only on the first chapter of the game.
I'm playing OG right now, but we're getting off topic.
It's, actually, never mind, because that's going to sound very weird.
Okay.
Did Netza
We'll
Koyoto
call him Netza. We'll keep it there.
Netza? I'm gonna finish reading the chapter after this, but does he ever become the Hue Tlani?
Let me check my hold on. That's not what I want to look at.
He has a very interesting story.
He does. Yeah. So do you remember off the top of my head? I'm gonna say no off the top of my head.
No. So if you get a chance to read all of Nezahualcóyotl's story, it's freaking crazy. So one of the Huaytlatuanis chases him away, and he comes back, and he climbs all the way up to power. And just like Dr. Manjaluso says, he is like a Renaissance man. He writes poetry. He's a war general. Like pictures of him, he's got like this. His name translates to Hungry Coyote. But he just becomes the leader of his area, which is Texcoco.
Yeah.
But the way Tlatuani is always from the center of the Triple Alliance, which is in Tenochtitlan, and he never makes it there. But he's the guy that engineers the dike. He teaches. He figures out that you have to put in massive like post supports so that your stone structures don't sink.
Mhm.
And obviously the Spanish don't know any of that stuff when they start building.
Modern Mexico
So, like,
doesn't know.
everything's sinking.
Like Mexico City is sinking. I just put in the chat, everyone, the Wikipedia page that just lists out the emperors of the Aztecs, so that you might find that helpful. I didn't really lecture on it because I didn't, we haven't really been going over king lists or anything so far in the course, and I didn't want to kind of inundate you with people, especially since next week I'm going to inundate you with gods.
But yeah, he doesn't become Huaytlatuani. He's just a Tlatuani.
Oh, and we will, if memory serves correct, we will look at some of his poetry next week. Going to make you guys listen to a song.
I'm down for that.
Your cat is in like Zen mode, I can tell.
Yeah, Swami is the chillest. He's just straight up. He's drooling right now. I didn't know cat.
It's down in an
My
audience.
cat does that too, and she's super relaxed. It's really gross.
Yeah, I pet him and my hand was all soaked. It was nasty.
Oh,
But he's cute, so
So you said one of the codices was on philosophy?
Yeah. So what I have it, at least on that slide.
Or one of the volumes of
Yeah, a
was
volume
the,
on rhetoric, moral philosophy, and theology of the Mexica.
So does that contain, like philosophical concepts that they came up with?
Yes, but I would not say that Aztec philosophy necessarily, and I don't know a ton about it, necessarily like fills every box of the different realms of philosophy that we consider, right? So
Well, yeah, I mean, that's why I'm curious, because I'd like to see what their concept of philosophy was and
yeah, I mean,
concepts they created within it.
so I haven't looked. Let me check something real quick here.
You can buy, so instead of buying the entire Florentine Codex, if you look on Amazon, they're divided into
The different volumes.
The different volumes. So it's like about $30 per volume, and some volumes are broken up into 2 or 3 books because they're really huge. It ends up being a total of like $400 if you buy
The whole thing. Yeah.
like all the volumes. Yeah, but you can buy just each volume separately on Amazon, and it's like $30. So if you really wanted
Volume
to look at
one, I'm looking right now. Volume one is
into it.
$21.50. They're trying to get you, you know, the first one's cheaper to get you tied in. But
That's my
yeah,
that's
Eddie,
my stimulus check just went to that. No, I'm just
Florentine Codex, Book 6, Rhetoric and Moral Philosophy.
And it has like writings of or ideas.
Well, so
that
it
were orally-
will, but remember, here I'll put the Amazon listing. It will, but it's going to be through that kind of Spanish lens, right?
Right.
That said, Sahagun is not. He's not as ethnocentric as some of his compatriots are, but yet he's still working without like any idea of what necessarily cultural relativism is, any idea of that there could be necessarily fundamentally different ways of thinking in a different culture.
Mm.
He's not an anthropologist, I guess is what I'm saying.
I think even though that is his perspective, it's easy to catch because he's really obvious in the stuff that he says sometimes. Like he can be talking about Huitzilopochtli and he'll say that devil Huitzilopochtli. And so he's very like straightforward in
Right.
how judgmental he is about their belief system.
Right.
So you can pick it up. It's not I don't think it's too crazy of a
It's
read
not
if you really
subtle,
want
yeah.
to check it out, Eddie.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I know that your old questionnaires, I still have a bunch to grade. I'll get on that as soon as I can. It may be a little bit
Oh,
though.
can you also the most recent ones you posted? You put like due dates on them, so they're showing up as like past due on Canvas. Could you change that?
I thought I put the correct due dates. Let me look.
I mean, you did, but I think like it doesn't know that we only have to do 2 of the 4 you posted. So the other 2 I didn't do are like showing.
Oh,
as
showing
past.
like you didn't do them.
Yeah.
I'll look and see if I can change that. I don't know if there's a way for me to change it. I'll try.
Okay.
But don't worry, like as long as you're following what the syllabus says to do, you're not losing any points.
Cool.
I know, I look at my grade book and like half of it is red because, you know, you don't have to do every questionnaire.
So we only have to do 2, right? Out of 4, or
Let's look. Three. 3 from Townsend 1 and 3, Townsend 2, Townsend 4, Townsend 5, Townsend 6.
So for this section 3.
Yeah.
Got it.
Is there?
Wait, there's Townsend 1 and 3, Townsend 4, Townsend 5. I didn't see it 2.
Okay, let me make sure there is a Townsend 2. Let me look.
You don't have 2 on the syllabus.
Okay, maybe I was drunk. I don't know. Let me look.
I can pull it.
The syllabus just has 1 plus 3, and then
Mhm.
4, 6, and 5, or something like that.
Okay.
But no 2.
Yeah, you have 1, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess there is no Townsend 2. I don't know. I must have got it confused with Quilter 2. So yeah, three out of those 4.
Yeah, because Townsend 2, I think, is about just like the previous cultures before that influence. They talk about like Teo and Tula and stuff.
Taylor on the chat has a little shout out to you guys about how to consider your grades.
No, I just don't want to keep going on campus and seeing that I have assignments past due.
Yeah, I get you. I wonder if I can change the color. If I make it a happier color, maybe it'll be less anxiety inducing.
Well, it just has like a big red circle. With a
Louise, did you have a question? No?
Dr. M, so I'm doing an honors project for Dr. Symes' class. Do you mind if I ask a question real quick about that?
No,
too?
go ahead.
Cool. So I am doing my project for medical anthropology on the social shift in millennials during this self-isolation and pandemic kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So if anyone has time over the next couple weeks to chat, I'm going to drop my email in here. And if you just feel like helping me out, that would be awesome.
What kind of questions are you going to ask?
So I'm just going to be asking about how you're still socializing with your friends, or how you're keeping up with school, if your job, that kind of stuff.
That's assuming they had friends before this.
I know, but you can make friends still.
With this group, it's be careful. No, I'm kidding. All right.
What's your definition of a millennial?
So what I'm defining as a millennial is born 1980 to 1996.
What does that make me?
Cool.
When were you born?
You're a boomer, man.
Boomer?
I'm not a
there's
boomer.
Isn't
Nope.
Gen X.
I am a Gen Xer.
Born during the baby boom era?
Younger than
Nope.
that.
I was born in 75. That's late in Gen X, but firmly in Gen X.
When were the boomers born? The 50s?
50s and 60s.
50s and 60s, yeah.
Whenever the
Okay.
soldiers
I think
came
it
back from
goes-
war.
Boomer, Gen X, Gen Y, and I think Gen Z. It was supposed to be Gen Z, but that's millennials, I think.
I think Gen Z is after millennials.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, Gen Z's after because I'm one of those.
That's what the new people are, the Gen Zs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Gen Y is millennial. All right.
Oh
Gen
god.
X is the people that everyone forgets. No one ever asks Gen X. What's Gen X doing about this? What's Gen X doing? No one cares. We're just there in our oversized flannel shirts and Doc Martens.
That's a gay fashion.
I actually had another question.
Yeah,
about
go ahead.
something. So the Aztecs didn't have a complete writing system.
Correct.
So does that, two questions, I guess. So from not a complete writing system, does that mean they had some writing?
Yeah, so so those toponyms that I showed you in the video, that counts as
Mhm.
writing, and the sort of little conventions they have for showing conquering, and that, like the temple on fire or the broken house, and so those things, and then of course all the numeration and all the reference to different calendric systems. So they have glyphs for year names and all the stuff. But they have ideas that can't be conveyed with the writing that's there.
Only through oral speaking. Right?
Correct.
Okay.
So,
And
for
two-
example, the poetry is not writable purely in glyph form.
And 2, do we know this because of evidence, or is it because we just don't have like all the codices because they were burned and stuff? We just don't know that they have.
Well,
They have.
I guess what I would say is remember that the writing doesn't just need to be in a codex, right? It can be painted on a wall. It can be carved into an artifact. It can be molded into the side of a pot,
Right.
and it's not in any of those places. So the writing that they did is in all of those places, and the writing that we say they didn't have, we don't see anywhere. But
So that leads to that.
Right. But remember, it isn't like, oh, there's not a book for it. There's not a book for it. There's not a monument using it. There's not a pot with it. There's not a Spanish account of something more complex.
Okay. Okay.
Also, I'm going to put, Taryn put her email in the chat. I'm going to put my Venmo in the chat if you just want to go ahead and send me your stimulus money.
I know. I just bought a new laptop with that.
Nice.
I think many students can get that money.
Well, I will say, if you did direct deposit, my stimulus money hit 2 days ago. So check your bank accounts.
Yeah.
This was my tax refund, to be fair. I haven't gotten my stimulus check yet. So
Okay. There's a new laptop that's come out, the second generation of it. It doesn't just have a screen that you look at, but over the keyboard is a second screen that lies flat, and you can like put some of your tabs and windows into that.
Oh, is the Asus one? Because I know they're doing.
Yeah. So last year's one was $2,500. The new one's $1,400. But you could like keep a spreadsheet on like next to your keys and look at that, and then have whatever on the top screen.
What's it called?
The company is Asus, ASUS.
What would I search to find that?
Like dual screen laptop or something like that.
Yeah, I don't remember what exactly
But
it's
it's
called. I
like
just know it's like Asus.
like $2,000 minimum.
Well, the new ones are only going to be $1,500. They come out next week, I think.
Oh shit! It's like they have a screen in front of your keyboard.
Yeah.
Above your keyboard with this. Wow, that's interesting.
I guess there's been a lot of hiccups in getting them to work correctly, but it seems like
I bet. But if they get it to work, that's pretty cool.
Trust myself. I feel like it's too, I don't know. Like I drop it or something and then I break both screens.
I'm just someone who always has 57,000 tabs open, so more screen is very exciting to me.
Gross.
extra 1,000.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I've been having to like scramble to write 15 different essays from like, all my classes, and it's like, because of quarantine, I feel like I have a low attention span when it comes to like doing them. So I'll have tabs open that pertain to this one essay, and then I'll have tabs open that pertain to this other one. Like when I was doing the test on Sunday, I had a bunch of stuff. Like I was reviewing all the, before I actually took the test, I had like a bunch of the video tabs open, and then I had stuff for like my philosophy class.
Yeah.
Nightmare.
Good way to chew up all that RAM. It's good. It's good. David asks, is it the 2-in-1 PC? I'm not sure. Yeah, the Asus ZenBook. That's.
I would just look up, dual screen laptop or 2-screen.
Eddie's wondering a good brand name for a gaming laptop. That's a good question.
Good desktop.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, just get a good desktop if you could build it. I mean, there's some that you can build for like $300.
Yeah, I've
Well-
heard Alien one is good.
I'm not
Alienware's
looking
good.
for like a super high tech one. I just want like a simple one that can run games on.
Oh, an AMD Ryzen, something like that. Running
I think if you're looking to game, the place where if you're going to spend money is really the graphics card. It used to be like when I was first getting into computer gaming, it was all about the RAM, all about the RAM, all about the RAM. But newer video games use the processor that's on the graphics card instead of the computer's RAM. So you need to soup that up. I learned about that when I was needing heavy computing power to make these LiDAR maps. And it wasn't about a processor. It wasn't about the RAM. It was about how nice the graphics card was.
Yeah, it's just I have a Mac and some new games coming out that I want to try and get are on Windows.
Yeah, that is frustrating.
And I don't know if I have enough, memory to do a virtual computer.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I was thinking of just buying like a separate laptop that I can run those games on.
I have a question about the Aztec stuff.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry to break the trend here.
No. I mean, this is reminding me of what class is usually like, where we're like in 9 different directions at the same time. So go ahead.
Yeah. Will you go into detail later on about the burning of the codices?
I mean, we definitely get into the kind of Spanish conquest. I don't like it's been, I haven't looked at that lecture in like a year. And I can't remember, I don't know if I end up saying anything of greater depth than, it's important to remember that not just the Spanish were burning them, but also the Aztecs themselves were.
Yeah, that's actually the aspect that I was a little bit more interested in.
Like where does that come from?
Yeah, because I know that it ties a little bit into like a shift in religion and belief. But that's one of the instances that I know where they were burning some of the codices. But was there another example or another reason why they do this, like when they do the new fire purification type thing or anything like that?
No. The only other reason I had heard, which I tried to convey, was that that they were almost not wanting this information to get into the Spaniards' hands. You can think of multiple reasons why they wouldn't. So maybe they think that the information would give the Spanish some sort of upper hand, but also, this is sacred material that they should not be allowed to possess or destroy. I think is another possibility. Also not having something that can be held over your head. I know something that the Inca would do when they took over a place. They would say, "Hey, we love you guys. We're going to venerate your ancestral mummy back in Cusco." And so they would take the ancestral mummy of this community and take it back to Cusco to quote unquote venerate it. But that's like they're holding a gun to its head,
Right.
So I wonder if that's, better it be destroyed than taken from us.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I think it's clear that these books perturbed the Spanish to no end because they seem so idolatrous, etc. That's another reason.
Yeah, especially if they get that story from what was it? Culwa? Can't remember. When they were working as mercenaries and they killed a guy's daughter.
Yeah. Yeah. Culhuacan.
Yeah.
Don't what was I gonna say? If some of you have extra time while we're all social distancing, if you want to go ahead and invent time travel so that we can get some of these books back, I'd appreciate it. Consider it a favor to me.
But we all get A's if we should ever get one.
I yes, I promise you a 100% A+ if you invent time travel.
All right, let me load up Animal Crossing really quick.
Yeah, yeah.
So about Loco,
Uh-huh.
do we just is that gonna come like is there gonna be more information about that just further down the line, or for right now, do we just need to know that it's like the market town north of Tenochtitlan and it's
Yeah,
like
yeah. And so to know that at one point it was sort of more kind of an independent part of the empire, and then it eventually gets taken over.
okay. Wow, good job, guys.
Cool. Well, I'm gonna get back to finishing this questionnaire.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah, we
you,
can call it
Professor.
here. The new material I'm hoping to have up by Sunday or Monday. You know, consume that as best you can before our next Zoom session. Let me know if you have any questions about the questionnaires. And, you know, you've already got that study guide, so keep it handy, you know, fill it out as you go. Remember, so I'll put this out there. There are different ways to earn participation credit for this course. And so you're here. This is good. Let me take your picture real quick before I forget. And that counts. But there are other ways to earn participation credit. Some of you are interacting heavily on Discord. That is one way. But almost nobody is using the discussion boards. So I just want to remind you that those are there.
And I will say just personally, I don't like the discussion boards. I'd much rather be able to like have like a continuous dialogue, actually talking. Discussion boards, I feel like it's like you post, you wait for someone else to post,
and then
you
what
have
they
to write a
post is
really long
lame
thing.
and you're frustrated. I
Yeah,
get it. I get
it's like very slow in
So
getting
4chan
information.
forums.
Let's not end up in a 4chan scenario. What I will say, those of you who are talking in the Zooms, you're pretty good, right? Those of you who are interacting on Discord, you're pretty good. But I just want to remind people who maybe aren't doing a lot of either of those things, there is this third venue to do stuff.
Okay.
All right, I'll stop recording.